This is SOSF. Alright, so sometimes you see a fight announcement that just makes you stop and say, what the hell are we even doing here? This is one of those times. We're talking about putting a legit world champion assassin in the ring with a social media star turned boxer. It's a circus, man, but I'm buying a ticket. Just think about this for a second. On one side, you've got Gervonta Tank Davis. The dude is 5'5", a legit, certified killer, a pound-for-pound monster who has been fighting since he could walk. On the other side, you've got Jake Paul, a guy who is 6'1", built like a damn linebacker, who literally became a professional boxer because of the internet. We're living in a crazy timeline, man. This isn't just a fight they're talking about. It's a collision of two completely different universes. It's the old world versus the new world. It's the gritty blood and sweat boxing gym in the worst part of Baltimore versus a content house in Calabasas with a perfect lighting setup. And the question everyone is asking is, what happens when these two worlds actually smash into each other? It's a legitimate freak show, but it's the kind of freak show that you can't look away from, because on some level, it asks a really fundamental question about fighting. How much does skill really matter when you're facing a guy who is just massively, overwhelmingly bigger than you? Let's just break down who these two guys are, because you can't understand the absurdity of this matchup without understanding their origin stories. They're like two different species that evolved on separate planets. First, you got Tank. This isn't a guy who decided to try boxing. This is a guy who is boxing. It's in his DNA. The document I was reading on this, man, it's insane. Before he even got his first professional paycheck, Tank had 221 amateur fights. 221. He had a whole career before his career even started. His record was 206 wins and 15 losses. Think about that. Most professional boxers don't even have 15 pro fights, and this dude had 15 losses as a kid, which means he was in there constantly, against everyone, learning, adapting. He's a 3-time National Silver Gloves champion, a 2-time PAL champion, and he won the 2012 National Golden Gloves. The Golden Gloves, man, that's the crucible. It's where they forge champions. You're fighting the best kids from all over the country, back to back to back. It's a meat grinder, and he came out on top. So, when he turns pro, he's not learning on the job. He's a finished product. He's a 5-time world champion in 3 different weight classes. And look at who he's beaten. He doesn't just fight cans. He's fought 10 guys who are world champions. He dismantled Jose Pedraza, a skilled, undefeated champion, to win his first title. He fought Leo Santa Cruz, a legend, a 4-division champion, a guy who throws 1,000 punches around. And what did Tank do? After a few rounds of downloading the data, he uncorked one of the most brutal uppercuts I have ever seen. It was like something out of a video game. The fight was just over. Instantly. Then, to prove a point, he moves up 2 weight classes to fight Mario Barrios, an undefeated champion who was way bigger than him. Taller, longer reach, everything. And Tank walked him down, broke him down, and stopped him. And of course, there was the Ryan Garcia fight. Garcia was the golden boy, undefeated, lightning-fast left hook. Everyone was talking about Garcia's speed. Tank was patient. He downloaded the data, slipped a counter left hand that put Garcia down, and then later in the fight, he hits him with a body shot, a liver shot, and Garcia takes a knee and just can't get up. It was a masterclass in fight IQ. That's the thing about Tank. People see his knockout ratio, 93%, which is just stupid, and they think he's just a brawler. He's the furthest thing from it. He's a surgeon. He's a southpaw counterpuncher who uses the first few rounds to figure you out. He's downloading your timing, your tendencies, your reactions. He's comfortable losing those early rounds because he has absolute, unshakable faith that sooner or later, you're going to make a mistake, and he's going to make you pay for it in the most violent way possible. He has that one punch, lights-out power that can render all the judges' scorecards completely irrelevant. He's a product of a system that rewards pure, unadulterated skill and dedication. He is, for all intents and purposes, boxing royalty. And then, you have Jake Paul. Jake Paul's journey into boxing is something that old-timers can't even wrap their heads around. It didn't start in a gym. It started with an online beef between YouTubers. His first fight was a white-collar bout against another internet guy. The whole thing was driven by clicks and drama, not athletic merit. And from that, he built an empire. The dude is a promotional genius. He co-founded his own company, Most Valuable Promotions, and he's managed to leverage his millions of followers into massive pay-per-view events. He's essentially hacked the system, building a boxing career completely outside the traditional gatekeepers of the sport. You gotta give him credit for that, 100%. The guy works his ass off. He trains hard, he's dedicated. But you have to look at the resume. It's a masterclass in strategic matchmaking. He's not fighting guys like Tank has been fighting. He started with another YouTuber, then a former NBA player in Nate Robinson. Then he moved on to this very specific formula. Find MMA fighters who are legends in their own sport but are either old, much smaller, or have absolutely no traditional boxing experience. Ben Askren, a wrestler. Tyron Woodley, a great UFC champ but past his prime. Anderson Silva, one of the greatest strikers in MMA history. But he was 47 years old when they fought. 47. And his most recent win against Mike Tyson, who was 58. It's a smart formula. You get the name recognition. You get an opponent who is tough and can fight, but you're facing them in your world, with a set of built-in, overwhelming advantages. The problem is, we have one crucial piece of data. The one time Jake Paul stepped outside that formula and fought a legitimate, active, professional boxer, Tommy Fury. Now, let's be real. Tommy Fury is not exactly a world beater. He's famous mostly because of his last name and a reality TV show. He's a novice-level pro. But he grew up in a boxing family. He knows the fundamentals. And what happened? Fury threw almost double the punches and outlanded him. Jake lost. It was the first real test against someone from the boxing world. And he failed. So you have these two guys. One is a prodigy forged in the fires of elite competition. The other is a marketing phenom who has built a career on carefully managed risk. And now they're talking about putting them in a ring together. This brings us to the absolute craziest part of this whole thing. The size. This isn't like a welterweight fighting a middleweight. This is a different dimension of reality. The stats are just. Tank is 5'5.5". Jake Paul is 6 feet 1 inch. That's a 7.5 inch height difference. Tank has a 67.5 inch reach. Paul's is 76 inches. That's an 8.5 inch reach advantage. But the real kicker is the weight. Tank walks around and fights at about 135 pounds. Jake Paul fights at cruiserweight, and on fight night, he could easily step into that ring weighing 200 pounds. That could be a 65-pound difference. 65 pounds. Dude, that's an entire person. That's the weight of a German Shepherd. It's like a pit bull fighting a black bear. The pit bull is a killer. Man, it's bred for combat, it's vicious and skilled. But the bear is a bear. The physics of it are just undeniable. People talk about punching power, and it really comes down to a simple equation. Force equals mass times acceleration. Tank Davis has otherworldly acceleration. His speed, his timing, the way he snaps his punches, it's like a lightning strike. He's a Ferrari. But Jake Paul has the mass of a Ford F-150. And even a slow-moving pickup truck will mess you up if it hits you. A jab from a 200-pound man, even if it's not technically perfect, has a different kind of impact. It's just raw, concussive force. Tank has never, ever been hit by someone that big. History gives us some clues here. The best example is the Canelo Alvarez vs. Amir Khan fight. Khan was a brilliant boxer, super fast, former champ at 140 pounds. He moved up to fight Canelo at 155. For the first 5 rounds, Khan was beautiful. He was dancing, popping the jab, making Canelo look slow and clumsy. He was winning the fight. But the whole time, you could feel this sense of dread. You knew that all Canelo had to do was land one clean shot. And in the 6th round, it happened. Boom, a single right hand. Khan was unconscious before he hit the canvas. It was terrifying. And listen to this. On fight night, Canelo probably only outweighed Khan by 15 or 20 pounds. 20 pounds was enough to completely nullify the skill difference with one punch. We are talking about a potential 65-pound difference between Paul and Davis. It's a whole other level of insanity. So how does a fight like this even play out? It's a bizarre chess match where both guys have to do something they're not used to. If you're in Tank's corner, what's the game plan? You absolutely cannot afford to stand in front of this guy and trade punches. That's a suicide mission. Your entire strategy has to be about neutralizing the size. You have to be a ghost. Constant head movement, lateral footwork, creating angles. You have to get inside that long jab. And once you're inside, you have to go to war on his body. That's the key. It's the oldest rule in the book for fighting a bigger man. You chop the tree down. You punish the ribs, you dig into the stomach. Every one of those body shots is an investment. It takes air out of the lungs, it saps the energy, it makes the big man slow down. And eventually, it makes his hands drop. That's when you go headhunting. Tank would have to fight the most disciplined, perfect fight of his life. He has to be a surgeon, not a brawler. Now, if you're in Jake Paul's corner, your path to victory is much narrower. But it's clear. You have to weaponize your size. You have to use that jab like a piston, not just to score points, but to control distance, to keep that little hornet away from you. When you get into a clinch, you can't just hold. You have to maul him. Lean on him with your full 200 pounds. Make him carry your weight. Make it a dirty, ugly, physical fight. Drain his gas tank by making him fight your fight. You have to be the bully. Your goal isn't to outbox Gervonta Davis. That's impossible. Your goal is to physically wear him down and create one single opportunity to land that big overhand right. That's the equalizer. The whole fight, for him, comes down to landing one punch. It's a puncher's chance, but when you're that big, it's a very real chance. And that doesn't even touch on the psychological part, which might be the most interesting thing. There's going to be a moment in that fight where both men experience something they have never felt before. The first time Jake Paul throws a punch and Tank isn't there, the first time he gets hit with a counter so fast he didn't even see it coming, he might start to panic. He might get desperate and abandon the game plan, which is exactly what Tank wants. But on the flip side, what happens the first time Tank gets hit clean by a 200-pound man? Even a jab? Or the first time Paul smothers him in a clinch and he feels that suffocating weight? Does that make him hesitant? Does it make him second-guess coming inside? The fighter who can adapt to that new, alien feeling is the one who probably wins. The experts in the boxing world are all over the place on this, but not really. They all agree on the basics. My man Teddy Atlas, a legendary trainer, he summed it up perfectly. He said the skill gap is obvious, but when you see them standing next to each other, the size difference is just jaw-dropping. He's fascinated by the what-if factor. What if the real boxer lands a clean shot on the chin of the guy who isn't a real boxer? But also, what if the big guy just lands anything? Then you've got someone like Ryan Garcia, who has actually been in the ring with Tank. He calls the potential fight a disgrace to the sport. He says it's a trick on the public because casual fans don't understand what a 65-pound weight difference actually means in a fight. He said if Tank was Jake Paul's size, this wouldn't even be a conversation, and he's 100% right. He's worried it makes a mockery of the sport. And then you have a guy like Andre Ward, one of the smartest fighters ever. He looks at it from a business perspective. He says Tank is just following the Floyd Mayweather blueprint. Generate the most money for the least amount of risk. A fight against Jake Paul is a low-risk, high-reward business move. It's not about legacy, it's about securing the bag. And you can't hate a guy for that. So, when you put it all together, what's the final verdict? It's a spectacle, man. It's the ultimate circus act. But if we're being honest and we break it down based on evidence, there's really only one highly probable outcome. The first couple of rounds would probably be awkward and ugly. Paul would use his size to make it a frustrating fight for Tank. He might even win a round just by keeping Tank on the end of his jab. But talent and skill eventually find a way. As the fight goes on, Tank's elite footwork and head movement would start to solve the puzzle. He'd find his way inside, and he'd start that relentless attack on the body. And that's when the fight would change. You'd see the gas tank on the bigger man start to empty. His punches would get slower. His feet would feel like they were stuck in mud. And once that happens, it's over. Tank would start setting traps. He'd feint, make Paul throw that big telegraphed right hand, and then he'd come over the top or underneath with a devastating counter. My prediction? Gervonta Davis wins by knockout, probably somewhere between the 6th and 9th rounds. It wouldn't be a one-punch thing out of nowhere. It would be the result of a systematic breakdown. He'd chop the tree down at the base and then yell timber. It would be a brutal confirmation of that old saying in boxing, there are levels to this game. And the distance between a social media star and a pound-for-pound great is a chasm that not even 65 pounds can bridge. But you can't fully dismiss the puncher's chance. The what-if is what makes it so compelling. What if Jake Paul just closes his eyes and throws one haymaker in the second round and it happens to land on the button? It's not likely, not against a defensive master like Tank, but it's not zero. And that tiny, non-zero possibility is why millions of people would tune in. It's David versus Goliath. If Goliath had a sports scientist, a nutritionist, and millions of followers on Instagram. The whole thing is a sign of the times, man. The line between real sport and pure entertainment has never been blurrier. And it leaves you with a really wild thought experiment. Where is the actual limit? Forget Jake Paul. What if you took the most skilled 135-pound fighter on planet Earth and put him in the ring with, say, a 240-pound heavyweight? The heavyweight isn't a world champion, but he's a decent athlete who has been training seriously for 5 years. At what point does the math just become impossible? At what point can pure, raw, monstrous size and power completely overwhelm a lifetime of exquisite skill? It's a crazy thing to think about, isn't it? What a wild world. See you next time.